Hello, I'm Dalton Delan. I'm a columnist for the Berkshire Eagle, and this is Eagle Reels, where we take you beyond the news. Our distinguished guest today, Professor Suzy Welch of the Stern School of Business at NYU. Welcome, Professor Welch.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Well, let's dive in. You have a very interesting work that you do with Values Bridge that you created. 90,000 respondents. Now, this has revealed that only 11% of Americans rank family as a number one value.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and actually, it's 110,000 respondents now, but the statistics are still the same, 11%.
Okay, 110,000 and no improvement in that. Well, this family season, holidays are about family. Is it a value that only pops up on these occasions? Is family glue weaker in this country?
Well, let me talk to you a little bit about the research and what it says. And again, thank you for having me on. I have a lab at NYU. It's called the Becoming You Labs, based on a class that I teach called Becoming You, which helps people discover their purpose. And during this class, and through the methodology that we use, the first step is that people identify and excavate their values. And we use a values inventory that I developed during my PhD research. It's called the Welch Bristol Values Inventory. I developed it at the University of Bristol in England, and it identifies the 16 values that I think exist. Other academics might tell you there's 19 or 11, but I'm advocating that there's 16. They're all related. There's not a lot of disagreement about what the values are, just how many there are exactly. And the tool, I developed the tool with my team, and by my team I mean data scientists, psychometricians, and engineers. I developed the tool because people have a really hard time identifying their values and rank ordering them, because there's a lot of emotional issues around what your values are. There's a lot of judgment in society about what your values are. And I'm not talking about virtues. I want to be very clear. Virtues are social constructs that we all agree are good, like fairness and responsibility and kindness. Values are choices about how we organize our lives. And so family, we call it family centrism, which is the desire to organize your life around your family, is one of the 16 values. So the Values Bridge, which is your listeners can go and take it right now at thevaluesbridge.com. There's a free version and there's a paid version. I want to be really clear about that. The free version tells you your top 4 values, and the paid version tells you all of them. I don't want to have anybody think there's a bait and switch. And I wish that the test was free. And the day that engineers and psychometricians are free, it will be. But a lot of work went into this tool. 110,000 people have taken it now. And so, of course, we have this is the largest data set of its kind, we think, in the world about people's values. It is generally the people have taken it, it reflects the US population. So it's not like there's any kind of selection bias that's baked into it. So when we have this big data set, we're able to cut it all different ways to see, okay, by generation, what are the top 5 values? By gender, what are the top 5 values? By income level, what are the top 12 values? And if you're a data nerd, you would love to hang out with us, because we just can cut that data every which way. So as the holiday season was approaching, I said to my team, let's see what's going on with family, because millions upon millions of people are going to take trains, planes, and automobiles and suffer nobly this season to get to their families. And so, what's the status of family? And how people are feeling about it. And the data came back. We checked it twice because it took us by surprise. And what it showed was that with very small variation between generations and genders and income group, there's some small variation with income. But generally, across all populations, only 11% of Americans consider family their number one value. Now, listen, if you look at top 5 values, that's 48% of Americans. All right. But that's still not the majority. 48% of Americans would include family in their top 5 values. And so this is what does this mean? Look, we don't have longitudinal data. The Values Bridge was released to the wild. I mean, it was in beta testing for 2 years, but it was released into the wild in May. So I don't have data from 10 years ago. This tool is new. It's different than other tools as well. So, but I've spoken to a lot of people about whether or not it's new. I think that most people agree it's been a slowly emerging trend over the past 20 or 30 years. everybody has a reason for why it would be. Some people get very political about it. Some people have a much more positive take on it, which is to say, we were told family had to be our top value, and now we're free to say it isn't. And so, I often say, look, I'm the researcher, and I'm collecting the data. I have my own opinions about it, but they're probably as good as your opinions about it. And so, I'm not so much dwelling in the reasons for it, but I can tell you a lot about, the fact that it exists and what that data looks like. So, that's the background.
Well, okay. So among these sweet 16 values, right, you
Yes.
make the point strongly that it's not about the relativity of them. That it's not that we don't love our families, but don't priorities matter?
Well, I think that I'm going to presume that people love their families, okay? But I'm presuming that because I just float around in the world and people love their family. But there's that famous quote: "If you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family." I mean, people love their families with a lot of asterisks next to it. And I am grateful. I myself have a wonderful, very modern American family, very blended from all different kind of. It's like your classic American family now, and that there's, there's not a lot of nuclear about it. And so, and when I look around the table and I see all of us, I think how lucky we are and how unusual it is that we would probably to a person say, well, we're a highly functional family. Most people have family dysfunction. In my own life, I've had family dysfunction. I don't know if, I don't want to judge people for how they feel about family. People have other values. I think we do a lot of judging of each other. I think there you have my line to my students, and I'll say it here, is if you're not hurting anyone, your values are your values to have. So if you're not hurting anybody by having your values down and having family as a lower value, then power to you. Now, if you are hurting somebody, you need, I think, not to be judgy myself, but you should go fix that dysfunction, because if somebody's being hurt, that's not good for anybody. So, to your question, shouldn't we care about family more? Well, if you have family and you believe that, and you have family as a high priority, then yeah, we should care about it more. But say you're a person who's 60 years old, you've never married, you've never had children, your work is your number one priority, and then volunteering is your second priority. Why would I tell you you should have family as a higher value? It's not your priority. And I think, sort of a wonderful thing about being in America is our freedom of choice.
In saying this, Professor Welch, and in mentioning before, clearly that these were values, not virtues,
Yes.
um, are there not some people who would uh, pose the question of, is love of family not a virtue?
Yeah, so this is you should come to some academic conferences I attend where we debate what are values and virtues. I mean, but I've yes, some people would certainly, let me just say, yes, some people would say that, but I don't know why they would impose their values on others. I think that if you sat and had a conversation with somebody, said, love of family is a virtue, and you sat and you spoke with them and you said, look, what if you're a monk and you've decided to give your life to service of the poor, and you have no family? Must this person value family? I mean, if that person's not getting in the way of somebody else loving his family, isn't service to the poor a way to help family? Now, I personally believe, but what I personally believe is actually kind of irrelevant. But I personally believe the foundation of societies and cultures has been family, and a strong family, if you're in one, is a wonderful thing. But I don't know how we go in around and force this. I do think that broken families should endeavor to help them fix themselves, because broken families cause a lot of pain. And so I love strong families. I love families where people can talk about values without hurting each other.
So let's divide a typical day, okay? Making if we divide that pie in three parts, maybe we sleep for 8 hours, we have family time for 8 hours, whatever that is at the end of the day, and we perhaps work for 8 hours. And the evolving workplace is a major part of this equation. Some people have, enormous loyalty to that. Now that is in, it seems to me, tremendous shift, right? The realignment of employees don't feel loyalty to their to their employer because businesses are not seeming to value employees the way they used to. And I don't know any young person who expects that they'll be in any job for a long time. How does that fit into the equation?
Well, there are gigantic shifts in the relationship between employer and employee, but those have been going on for about 50 years. Um, And right now, if you really wanted to pour gasoline all over it, there's this whole transformation that's being caused by AI, where whole lines of works and a whole lot industries and all sorts of jobs are vanishing. And so I think that the younger generations are completely aware that the connection to one company is not going to be very long term. But it's not a company is not a value, but there are two values that are related to work, closely related to work. One is achievement, which is the desire to have success that other people can see. That is a value. And I will tell you that it's not a value that's the same across every generation. For your typical person who's in Gen Z, achievement is the 11th out of 16th value. We also measure how much people want more or less of this value in their life. And so when you look at Gen Z, they generally rank achievement at number 11 out of 16, and 60% would like less of it in their lives. As you go into older generations, the desire, the want, the value of achievement does indeed rise up higher. My own generation, it's number seven. But there's another value which we call work centrism, which is the desire to work for work's sake. It used to be in the old days called industriousness, and it was often considered a virtue. I can tell you that most people in Gen Z do not consider that a virtue, although I don't want to make a broad generalization, but 62% of Gen Z, their number one value, we use a Greek term for it because we don't want people's heads to explode, but we call it eudaimonia, which means flourishing. It's self-care. 62% of Gen Z's number one value is self-care. And that changes as the generations get older, but there's still plenty of people. I think if you get up to my age group, I'm 66, it's something like 42% have self-care. So, but that's a big difference. And so, look, there are different values between the generations, and definitely how we feel about work and achievement can be there are generational differences because work is different now. And we're in a time, I mean, I'm a business school professor. This is all I think about. I mean, the relationship between the employer and employee, because I teach a class called Becoming You, which is helps students think about what they should do with their lives and their careers. So as work changes, people's values will reflect it.
Well, okay, you jumped my great producer as well as professor. You jumped my next two questions. AI, how that will impact the holidays, right? Streamlining communications and planning. Will that further erode the human aspect? We already have no Christmas cards on the mantelpiece anymore.
Yeah. Look, AI is how it's going to affect us, our lives it's a matter of gigantic debate. You and I are both old enough to remember when the internet came and all we did was sit around and talk about how the internet was going to change everything. And it did. But we all adjusted, didn't we? We all adapted. I mean, I am a fan of many of the incredible things that AI does, and I use it myself. I think it has great application. It hasn't made me want to spend less time with people. It makes me want to spend more time with people. So I think it's a big shakeout. I think we won't know for years and years how it affects us exactly.
So in that class that you referenced, how do you ask your students to think in any certain way about that work-life balance?
No, I
And
don't.
how does
I don't tell them how to think about it. They all have their own personal opinions about how to think about it. They discover what their values are, and that pretty much answers what they think about work-life balance. So it takes a lot of the angst and out of it because they hear a lot of voices, and there's a lot of pressure to feel one way or the other. But they look at their values, and they see exactly where family centrism is. They see exactly where self-care is, and they see exactly where achievement and work centrism are. And they say, well, now I know my work-life balance. So it takes a lot of the mystery out of it for them. But they usually sense it anyway, but it's usually very confirming and very validating. But I don't tell them how to think about it. That's none of my business, how they live their lives. I'm a mother of four adult children, and I don't tell them how to live either. And that's why we all get along so well. I mean, I love them and I admire them, but I myself really valued work and achievement my whole life. I was a very hardworking person. I've worked every single day of my life. I plan never to stop working. And I have four children who I love a lot, but family centrism wasn't my top value when my kids were young. And I turned to my kids and I said, I'm going to spend my entire life helping you be you. Why don't you help me be me? And it's all going to work out okay. And it did. And I worked when they were growing up. And, but interestingly, my oldest son, is a hardworking person, but his number one value is family centrism. And I admire how he organizes his life with his beautiful wife around family centrism. It's not how I did it, but we have wonderful open conversations about it because we have the language of values and nobody's judging anybody. And he doesn't say, you didn't have the virtue I had. He says, you didn't have the value I had. And I'm so glad that that was the case, Mom, because you're the greatest grandmother who ever lived and blah, 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 blah. So it all works out.
Sometimes it seems to me, in my simplistic Manichaean way, that we either work to live or live to work, and I think I can almost divide everyone I know on that equation. Is that
Well,
is
that's,
that
but you're sort of like, well, what's interesting is what you're doing kind of intuitively there is you're sorting where achievement and work centrism fall for them and where family centrism falls for them. And so it's not a binary thing. This person lives to work and this person works to live. It's like they are somewhere on a continuum. And if you sort of describe somebody to me in those terms, I bet I could say to you, well, for that person, it sounds like achievement's number four, work centrism's number seven, and family's number 11. Like I could probably kind of intuit their values just hearing you talk about them.
what about over commercialization, right? The music is playing everywhere we go. We had Black Friday, we had Cyber Monday. Have have we in some way substituted gifts for our time?
Oh, it's an interesting question. This is outside my area of expertise, I might say. So, I mean, I have an opinion about it. But I think every family is really different. We have this tradition in my family. My family is 17 people. And when you put it all together with all the children and the spouses and all the different people who come to our holidays. And on Christmas, we each have one gift for each other under the tree. And we go one by one opening those gifts, and it takes a full day to do Christmas. So it's hard for me to say we've substituted gifts for time because for us, gifts and time go together. I highly recommend this tradition, by the way, in that it really slows Christmas down and it allows you to celebrate each person. And when somebody joins our family, my daughter recently got married, and her fiance first came into the family, and he was like, "What's up with your Christmas?" And she said to him, "Just watch, you're gonna really end up liking it." But like the first time he did Christmas with our family, he was like, "Christmas takes 8 hours around here." We're like, "Yes, it does." But it is a way of making sure that Christmas is about what it's supposed to be about.
I love that policy that you have. I'm thinking already of a popular book. The title will be Slow Unwrapping.
No, that it is. I mean, I'm telling you, it's going to sound like agony, but you eventually you buy into it, and it's a pretty spectacular way to do it.
What about the tough economy where in the Berkshires, a lot of families, pe young people moving home
Hmm.
because, affordability is not
Yeah,
there to have your own home. Is
yeah.
that something that may affect family value in keeping young adults, present with their parents more than they had been?
Your values are your values no matter where you're living. Okay, so people's values are pretty set by their mid 20s. So I think that I don't know, values don't change very easily. You have to have kind of a seismic event. So I'm not sure it's going to change it. We will have longitudinal data, soon enough, and we'll be able to know for sure.
Okay. So it seems to me, just to restate something, I think you've been pretty clear about that family doesn't have an intrinsic value of itself. Friends, social media, use other interesting examples, could take its place.
No, no,
So,
no, no, no. I think you
oh,
misrepresent me. Okay, let me
okay,
push
all
back.
right.
Okay,
Please,
let me push
please.
back. I think it's a personal. Uh, I think it for each individual, how much you organize your life around your family is an individual choice. I think it's always been that way. I just think we haven't talked a lot about it. And I'm not sure there was ever a time in the history of humankind where 100% of the people said, "I'm woke up in the morning and said I'm organizing my life around my family." I think in every culture and every time there's been different views of to what percentage of your life you organize around family. I think that we now have kind of numbers to show that show what the difference might be between the narrative of what we say family comes first and how many people actually do put family first. But I think that I don't want to say that it's either good or bad. I think it's a personal decision. I happen to value my family and love being with them, but if a person chooses in their life to have a life where they are not building a family, then I don't see why we would say go build a family. Now, again, I want to be very, very clear. If you have a family and then in some ways you devalue them and it's hurtful to them, there's nothing intrinsically okay about that. That's not right. So I want to be very clear about that. I'm not saying that at all.
Okay, so finally, and you are a researcher, not a prognosticator, but anything that you are seeing in trends that would mean that you might see a reversal in this value equation, and also for to stretch you even farther, for emotional health, is there anything you personally would like to see?
That's, I don't, I would say that this is just would be entirely personal answers from me. I mean, I think it's not what, my research is around, my area of expertise is called values expression. And I actually kind of take a look at what values people have and what demographics they're in and how much they're expressing them or not. And so I don't have any predictions about it.
Okay, thank you. Professor Welch, thank you for the gift of your time.
Thank
Uh,
you. Thank you for
and,
having me
and,
on.
and happy holidays to you.
Thank
And viewers, I hope you've enjoyed this enlightening conversation. I hope you not only think about slow unwrapping, but visit valuesbridge.com. That's fascinating. I'm going to do that right
Yes, I
after
can't wait.
this.
Let me know what your values are. I'd love to hear about it.
Oh, terrific,
Yeah.
terrific. And viewers, if you're already a subscriber, thank you. And if you're not yet a subscriber to the Berkshire Eagle, please consider becoming one. It's how we keep the flame of local journalism alive in this country. I'm Dalton Delan. I'll see you next time on Eagle Reels and in the pages of the Berkshire Eagle.